Welcome to the downside. My name is Gianmarco Soresi. I'm in a good mood.
Wow.
I'm in a good mood. We can't say why.
No.
But it is a rare good mood.
Yeah.
I'm here with my co-host, Russell Daniels.
Hi.
Russell, I saw The Whale. Listen, you should have gotten the part. I know it's...
It did come down between me and Brendan Fraser.
I saw a tweet that said, it was like, I walked out of The Whale because I saw another big guy and he gave me the Wakanda Forever sign. And we're here with my guest today, who's opened for me on the road, fantastic comedian Liam Nelson.
Woo!
Hello, I'm here as well.
Did you see The Whale?
No, that's not my movie.
No, I don't know.
It's not for me.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I don't know who it's. It's not for me.
No, it's for everybody.
Is it?
But listen, it was good. I told Russell, like, listen, I make jokes on the show, but I when it opens with him bent over jerking off, and it was so like designed to be like make you go ugh, that I was like, okay, I get people being like, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Could you at least give this to someone? And he does it so well, and he's so good that often what's lost in these conversations about who should and who shouldn't, you take it completely out of the context of did the person create good art with it? And I think it was so good. And you know, Brendan's not.
I don't feel like it
and,
ended up being that much of a conversation whether he should or not, or whether just that story was like in terms of. I think a lot of people were like, "This is like, you know, someone that fat isn't put into movies unless it's like in a situation that's like really depressing and like you know." So I think that felt like it was more of what people were responding to. I felt like initially it was that conversation, and then it was more about just. Should this kind of story be what we're showing?
Yeah, people? I get it. I don't know what the
there
answer
are
is.
Fat people that fat, you know, that can't leave their house and stuff.
But how many of them? Well, I don't know. We had a guest on recently who has cerebral palsy and was talking about like basically he was saying there's some big argument, a certain argument of like, well, if the movie's about a blind guy, we need to get Robert De Niro because there's no blind movie stars who will raise enough money to make this movie happen. And he was saying that's a bullshit argument, which I don't know. I don't know. All I know is it was a very good movie. There was one like eating scene where he goes like on a binge where he's like he's like trying to kill himself. Yeah, and it was intense.
It was like Garfield. Remember when Garfield used to eat and he would just like unlock his jaw and like
snake.
It would just pour in? Do you remember that?
Yeah, but then the nurse didn't come in and said, "You're gonna die today, Garfield."
Your
and
life
Garfield
is so
going,
sad,
I'm sorry. That would be a fun comic.
Odie will miss you, Garfield.
Clinically obese Garfield. Just every time they're really trying to get him to stop.
That cat loved food,
and he's like,
or he just hated life.
That's true.
And every day they tell me he's going to die, he's like, it's Tuesday. I know I'm going to die on a Monday because I hate Mondays. But I'm going to do before we get to you, Liam, but feel free to, I'm going to do my This Has Got to Stop right now.
Okay.
Because it was in The Whale. This scene that opens with him jerking off, no spoilers, it opens with this. He's watching porn. And when they depict pornography in TVs and movies, they're always like, we're going to show you, it's going to be real porn. And it's always a waist-up shot.
Yes.
It's like always a waist-up shot, standing in a shower usually.
Yeah.
She's naked, he's from behind.
Yeah.
And she's just, and that's like, in the movie world, it's like, whoa,
yeah, whoa,
porn.
We did it.
You never see
what we're
watching. You never see if they had opened it and it was like a woman on her double penetration, just crazy. It's just ridiculous, and I think there's a degree of like, don't show it or show it. These are the two options. Yeah. But if you show me a fake version of porn, it's just bullshit.
Yeah, because you could just you could do audio and not show it, you know, and it could be graphic, you know.
Yeah, or you could just show it because
or you could just find a real porn video and pay them a little bit of money, like to do it. I'm sure, you know, rather than hiring two actors to pretend.
And the two actors in the porn were wearing fat suits.
No.
How is it working?
It's just find a real porn. Pay those actors.
Yeah, that's what I
Give them
said.
a fucking.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you
Go
said.
on
A real
OnlyFans,
one.
support a small
Just
business
go,
owner.
go and wouldn't cost that much probably to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
But it was the same with White Lotus. White Lotus, he was watching a porn, and it was like just a woman
Yeah, you're like, that's not
masturbating in shower. And again, you don't. And he's there like,
Yeah.
no.
They're like, oh, these people are watching this with their parents. We don't want to freak them out too much.
Exactly.
Like, this is like the appropriate, like, oh, everyone just look away for a second, don't talk, and then we'll all meet back in the middle in two.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think especially with the whale, I felt it felt strange because the whale is diving into like body and death and such heavy topics that it's just like you see where our priorities lie once again. That sex is taboo and someone dying. You see more of his body than you do the porn stars' bodies.
Yeah.
And they're in a porn.
Yeah.
I was watching the Hunger Games the other day, and I watched a 13-year-old snap another 13-year-old's neck, and I'm like, this is PG-13, huh?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It would be funny if we lived in a world where truly the violence was R-rated and PG-13 movies were porn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was a time though
It's called Europe.
in the beginning, like there was a time, I think probably earlier on, the rating system was weirder. Like there could be a pair of boobs and it could be PG-13
I do remember
still.
my
and
mom-
that doesn't feel like that could be the case anymore. Like it's gotten more conservative, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or like I think of like Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, and they are ripping out hearts. They are eating like it's just it very graphic. People are getting set on fire.
Yeah.
And it's PG in 1985.
PG.
PG. So you're like,
Because that was before PG-13.
I think so.
So you had to fight an R with all your heart. What did your
Yeah.
mom?
My mom, so she like recommended 16 Candles to me and my very young friend when we were like 8 or something, and there's like the scene where you're just naked, and I'm like, oh, we both kind of panic because we're like, okay,
Yeah.
what do we do? Because like my mom gave this to us to watch.
How old were you?
I was like 8. But we're like,
8.
we're not supposed to be seeing this. So like, does she know? Like, can we just dispose of the DVD and then it'll never? So we just hit it.
hit it.
Yeah, because like we didn't know she remembered that there's titties in the movie.
My dad let me watch a lot of movies, but not crazy. But I had a sleepover when I was probably around 8, and my dad thought that we had gotten Frankenstein. But instead we got, and this was all a mistake, Lil Frankenstein.
Oh.
The Mel Brooks movie.
Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
I like
Lil.
that.
L-I-L.
Lil.
Lil.
I was going to say, is it like a Leprechaun 2 in the
Young
hood
Frankenstein.
situation?
And I've never been a Mel Brooks guy.
I haven't either.
Isn't it strange?
It is strange.
It is strange.
I want to like him a lot more than I don't dislike him, but I don't really. Anytime I've seen anything, I'm like,
It's always
You know?
it's always like, yes, yes.
yes.
You grew up in a time where there's like more nuanced satire available, I feel like. And then you go back and watch like
Yes.
the old stuff that a lot of
But
the
I
newest-
liked the spoof. I liked Naked Gun when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Sure, but
Airplane.
it's
that
different.
was maybe more absurd.
Yeah, but people all the time are like, well, have you seen Spaceballs? And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
the last thing I hate Star Wars to begin with.
Okay.
Let alone, you're a Star Wars boy?
Yeah, I like Star Wars. I like the original.
Forgive me, you've never mentioned a single Star Wars thing. What I was saying, so we got Teeny Weeny Frankenstein, and there's
Itty
itty bitty Frankenstein, and there's a pair. There at some point there's a long scene with tits,
Okay.
Yeah.
and like it was that same
You
thing.
like doing it, just throwing them in there. Because kids were watching
Yeah.
those movies too with their
Yeah.
dads in movie theaters.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I can't imagine that.
Do you imagine you're watching Pixar and they just threw in some tits all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Especially like Incredibles. Is that
I
that
mean,
the superhero
okay,
one?
hold on. But in Incredibles, they do. I mean, the ass on every woman in a Pixar movie is
Are nuts.
Good asses,
unnecessarily
yeah.
like detailed. They have one animator just for the
Yeah.
asses.
That's a good
on
sketch.
every-
That's a
Yeah.
good sketch. You're
Horny.
showing the new characters,
Yeah.
and like one of the asses is huge, and they go, "Hey, what's?"
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my early. This has got to stop. If I'm gonna see porn, you either do it or you don't.
Do it all
Yeah.
the way.
I want to.
I want to see some furry stuff.
Yeah,
2
yeah.
minutes into this
Yeah.
movie.
I think it's the problem is, I'm going to look it up. I bet you those porn people are like SAG actors, and that's what it is. And so they like decided they had to play by SAG rules. I bet you that's what it is.
Well, that's why I don't understand why you can't just like go find a real porn and then go to the people that made that and get
because then I don't think you could use it in a SAG production because SAG would be like, we don't approve of penetration. I bet that
you're
SAG
right.
work cannot have penetration in it.
Then don't show it.
Yeah.
This is the downside.
1, 2, 3. Downside.
You're listening to The Downside.
The Downside.
With Gianmarco Soresi.
Well, speaking of full-on penetration, we are here with Liam Nelson.
Oh no.
Who was
God.
conceived with penetration. That's all I meant.
I hope so.
Let me just say, for people who are new, this is The Downside. This is a place where people can be who they really are, which is a piece of shit. They can complain, they can kvetch, they can whine. They don't have to be thankful. They don't have to be grateful. They can be honest. We're human beings. We are negative human beings. If you are a listener or if you dig the show, join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. You get bonus episodes, our live episodes, like the one we just recorded with Steph Tolev in Houston.
Yes.
And you also get my clean comedy special, which I'm not releasing publicly because I'm embarrassed I made a clean album. You get to witness my embarrassment for just $5 a month. So, Liam, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here.
Liam, we're new friends. He opened for me recently in Connecticut, and apparently I was on stage. So I sell cum towels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what happened while I was on stage exactly?
So, Gianmarco, you're what, like towards the end of your set, I think. It was like maybe 45 minutes into your set, and I hear a loud crash outside the door, and then I just see like a server's head pop up, panicked, and she's looking around. She had apparently dropped an entire tray of red wine on the merch table, which is covered in towels, and then used the towels to clean up the spill.
How much did
she
you charge her?
used the towels to clean up
many
the spill.
towels?
Well, the initial plan was them not to tell him, and they were like, "Oh, he doesn't count
The
them."
booker said, "Oh, Gianmarco doesn't count the towels. Just don't tell him."
Yeah.
Oh my
Just
God.
don't tell him.
And he comes over to me like during the interview. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're good. We just won't tell him. He'll be fine." I'm like, "Do you think I'm on your side right now?"
Yeah.
And so I go back in the room and I just see a ball of
All your cum
my
towels.
merch covered in
Someone
red
had
wine.
murdered with his towels.
Not covered in cum, covered in red wine.
And he took care of it.
What? Oh,
You know?
he paid for them?
Yeah, I think 6 towels. It's normally be 120, but I gave him the wholesale value price, and he gave me $50, which I was happy with.
Yeah.
I was happy with. But can you imagine? Don't tell him.
Don't tell him.
That is some wicked
Yeah.
shit.
I'm glad that you found out on your own, and I didn't have to be like, "Hey, so they destroyed a bunch of your merch. Take that how you will," and then him be all like, "Oh, you
God.
fucking ratted on me."
Do you think you would have known if they hadn't? If they
Absolutely
hadn't told
not.
You wouldn't have known.
Absolutely not. He was
he was
completely
right. So
he was right.
He
He had
was
a- he had
completely
he
right
was
in that
completely
assessment.
right. You wouldn't
Devious
have known.
mastermind.
One
Just put
day,
out 6
I
in the
do think
place.
one day I'd be homeless on the street and I'd go, where did it go wrong?
I only had
You
that
just see a flash of
$50 more.
a Cookie Monster T-shirt in the back of your head.
I bought 1,000 more towels, and they are too many towels.
How often do you go through 1,000 towels?
I mean, it depends on the month. I'm
Let's
sure
say your best month you've ever had.
best month
How many cum
I've
towels we
ever
moving here?
had could probably like 70.
70
month.
Okay,
Yeah,
70
yeah.
towels at $20 a pop.
Yeah.
So we're talking.
God, can you say something?
We're
Dear Christ.
talking.
We're talking.
We're talking.
How much money is that?
20 times 7.
$1,400.
$1,400.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how you threw to him for the math on your statement.
Yeah.
Like, all right, now hit me with the.
I think for this batch of 1,000, I paid $3,000, and if I sell it all, I will make a profit of 17 grand.
That's a get rich quick scheme right there. Just be like,
Yeah.
just
No, to
sell
get
towels.
rich, quite slow, Steve.
Quite
Actually,
slow.
So Liam, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah.
I hate to say you joke about it the moment you talk on stage.
Yeah.
How tall are you, Liam?
I'm 7 feet tall.
You know, you're sitting when I came in.
Yeah,
And I
was a
didn't
fun
really know
surprise.
till you got up to go over there that
You couldn't
quite
tell
tall.
that he was
Yeah.
tall from.
Well, I can tell he's
I'm
tall.
proud of you for not
but
saying
not like,
anything.
Not like
His legs are under
you
the
know.
couch.
Yeah.
No.
I can play footsie with you right now.
But it doesn't seem. Sometimes I feel like I've met another person that was like 7 something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Okay.
feel.
Someone's got tall friends.
It doesn't feel like I'm not looking and being like, whoa.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Well,
No,
we've
I'm-
talked
I'm
about
a-
you saying that when I bring guests on.
Yeah.
You just looking at them and going, whoa.
What are we dealing with here today?
Every time I open the door to let in a guest, I go, Russell.
Russell, try to not say anything.
Yeah, no,
7 feet.
I'm a very skinny man though, so that's why
Yes,
you're not getting
yes.
the like. Because I shot like an event for Shaq one time, and I'm like, man, I look like his skeleton. Like it's crazy how much bigger of a person he is than me.
Did
know?
did you get to talk to him?
Yeah, briefly. He got so excited that his videographer was also tall. It was for one of his like dubstep DJ events.
What did he say? Was he just like,
He was
whoa?
like, hey,
How
my
tall
man,"
is
and, like
Shaq?
dapped me up. He's like 7'2", but also like high fives with the force of 1,000 buildings falling.
Yeah.
It's like he's
Yeah.
so big.
Yeah.
Because like you've seen him smash like rims, and I mean it's crazy. He's a giant person, and we're like 2 inches difference.
Is it surreal? Like, I'm fairly tall.
Yeah.
I'm 6'4", and when I was with like Pete Holmes,
Yeah.
he's taller than me,
Right.
And it really is. I feel small, and it's a feeling I don't have that often.
Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
it is quite incredible to be like, wow, I'm looking up to you. You're
Yeah.
a big, and because he's a celebrity in my mind,
Yeah.
it is like it fits.
It's like, oh, dad.
Yeah.
But when I meet like a smaller celebrity, there's part of me like, oh, you're a mini. You're just
Yeah.
a little thing.
Yeah, there was one time I was at I might have been Tova's birthday party. It was at that one place around here.
That was Tova's birthday.
And
yeah.
there was
Sour Mouse.
3 people that were all the same height. I think you were one of them, maybe. That was all like 6'4". And I was in conversation, and I was like, it's so rare for me to feel like the short person in the conversation. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And I really
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, like, what's going on here? Like
Yeah.
to have like even 3 people is a lot of a certain height to make you feel small.
Oh yeah, it's wild.
when you
So
don't feel it.
I go
normal.
to conferences, so I have a thing called Marfan syndrome, and we'll obviously talk about that more in a bit. But we go to conferences all together. So me and a bunch of people with my same genetic disorder all will hang out in a random city once a year, and then we walk around with matching T-shirts on, and people lose their fucking minds.
Yeah.
They're like, "Is this a family reunion or something? Why are some of you black? I don't know."
What do the T-shirts say?
Just like annual like Marfan Foundation conference, but they're usually in a fun.
Is everyone with
font, so it's
Marfan's tall?
That's actually one of my. What's the thing called? Get that.
This Gotta Stop?
This gotta stop. That's one of my. This gotta stops. Everyone for some
Yeah,
reason
sprinkle them in here.
Whenever I talk about having Marfan syndrome, they're like, "Oh, tall disease." No, it's genetic. So like, it does make you like taller and thinner than most people, but. It's up to your genetics. You know, like I was going to be probably 6'6" anyway. Imagine a world where I wasn't medically flawed and 6'6". I'd be killing it out here.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's gotta suck though if you're like a guy and you have Marfans and you're not even tall. You don't even get that.
No, I got some
Yeah.
friends who just have like the heart condition. So
Oh, jeez.
sucks to suck, dude. Short straw.
Short with a heart condition.
Oh, that's brutal. Because I know a little bit about Marfans because I think at some point my parents, I don't know why, but they suspected
I know
someone. Tell me.
I can just see. I would recommend if I saw you, especially as a child, like just.
But why? Because I'm kind of lanky.
I maybe it's just like. Not as much anymore, but I'm imagining you as a child.
I know why.
I'm imagining you as a child, and I know the exact reason that they were like, maybe we double check.
He was fatter as a child.
Did you like do a lot of weird shit with your hands as a kid?
I mean, what do you mean
Like
weird?
bend them in ways and stuff?
I don't think so.
Okay,
No,
maybe
that's a
not then.
Marfan's
Maybe
thing.
So yeah, we're like it's a connective tissue disorder. So like it affects how your entire body's built. So everything's more like elastic and fragile, basically. So it manifests itself in a million different ways. But the most classic presentation is like a very tall, thin person who's like can like bend all their joints backwards. Like I can do a whole little freak show of like weird.
Can
shit
you
with
show
my
us
thumb.
what? Okay,
All right,
so
ready?
thumb.
Yeah, the thumb stuff. I've lost some of my flexibility over the years. I used to be able to like put my leg backwards. Like,
Oh my God.
Oh my
but
God.
This is probably the freakiest looking one.
No.
Whoa!
Oh, I can't even look at it.
Yeah. It was,
Wow.
fun
Oh
party
my
trick
God!
when you're 7.
Wow.
And so your parent just sees that and goes, "Oh, holy shit!
Well, so when my pediatric doctor was the one who was like, hey, when I was 5, they're like, you should get him checked out for Marfan syndrome. They sent me in. They looked at me and counted on their fingers, which is the diagnosis process. Like if you get a certain number of symptoms and each one counts for a certain number of points and whatever,
Sure.
they told me I didn't have it. And so 6 years later, when I was 11, they sent me, my pediatrician again was like, hey, you should really just double check that that he doesn't have this. And I went back in, got a genetic test, and they're like, oh, he for sure has Marfan syndrome. Like he's the poster child for Marfan syndrome. Like I'm literally on the posters now for the nonprofit. Like
really?
I'm the most like obvious looking case in a lot of ways.
What's the percentage of people with it? Like how many people?
They're still
in America?
figuring it out. It's like 1 in every 5,000 is kind of the vague guess right now, but they're leaning probably closer to like 1 in every 2,500 coming up now, just because they're diagnosing. Also, there's like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is similar. It's like a kind of cousin disorder, and then there's Loeys-Dietz syndrome, which is another cousin disorder. They're both very
When you say
different.
cousin disorder, you mean like
So,
if people within
a
too similar
similar
a gene pool?
No, no, not.
Oh, I thought that was like the
incest.
Jewish thing. We
No,
talked
yeah.
with like my girlfriend. She grew up in a Chabad community, and they have to test for, I forget what it's called, but to make sure you're not too closely.
No, this one's not. Although
Kissing cousin.
Yeah.
Disorder.
yeah, there are a lot of Mormon Marfs, so I will say there is some intermixing.
Really?
Oh yeah, like most of them are either Catholic or Mormon because they don't, use condoms.
Sure,
So it's like,
sure.
we're just
Oh, yeah.
spreading the seed, this disabled seed. All
What does
across
a
the
cousin
land.
syndrome mean?
So it's a similar disorder. It manifests itself in a similar way, but it impacts the body differently. So like it's a similar mutation, and it's hard to tell the difference whenever before the kid is born or like early on. It's hard to tell which one they might have. So there's a lot of people who come to this conference that I go to who don't know which one they have fully. They just know the symptoms that they have, and then over time more symptoms develop, and then they can get like a categorized diagnosis. So we like the nonprofit I work for, we work with everyone from all different groups of the connective tissue disorder kind of spectrum. So with those numbers counted, it's probably closer to like 1 in every 2,500.
Wow.
What are the connective tissue disorders?
Connective tissue
What are the
disorder.
other big ones?
So Loeys-Dietz, Ehlers-Danlos are the two that I'm familiar with. There's different kinds of Ehlers-Danlos. There's vascular and hypermobile. So the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos is like the extreme version of like the bendy shit, where you're like your shit's popping out of joint like multiple times a day. Like I get that some, like when I stand up from the subway after a super long subway ride, my hip will go out of joint, and I have to kind of like re-establish myself.
Do you hear a click?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How do you?
It's
you
not
just
like it's more of like a deep thud. It's like a.
Does it feel good to get it back in there, like a cracking your knuckles?
In a way that like no longer being stabbed feels good, I guess.
Oh my
God. Like, I don't know.
Sweet release
better than
of
pain.
deep,
yeah,
deep,
for sure.
horrifying
But there's
pain.
no like at the end, like that's
Yeah.
better. Like it's not like cracking your back. It's like
I can't. I mean, we were talking about airlines where I had to fly just a 4-hour recently in the middle, and it was so miserable. I mean, I felt like shit.
Yeah.
And I cannot imagine.
Oh yeah, no. I'm a younger comic, so I'm doing a lot of shitty gigs that don't pay super well, and that means
Thanks
a
for
lot
doing
of,
those for me.
Yeah,
coming
well,
up soon.
I haven't flown yet. All right, so I'll be driving to those. I'll be good. I'll be less crabby. But no, it's like it changes the course of my day whether or not I get an exit row or not. And now I have like enough miles and like status to where usually I can get the exit row for free.
Can
early.
you tell me how there's not handicap seating on planes? I never even
That
thought
is
about
insane,
it.
yeah.
Oh, it's
I never
wild.
even thought about it. And now,
Yeah.
listen, I think it's putting all my complaints into perspective. But whenever I see a kid in first class, I always got kind of annoyed.
Yeah.
And now when I think about if you're on the plane,
Yeah, punch
it's
that
like,
kid for me next time, Gianmarco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why? That feels like that's like a movement that someone had to have tried at some point.
Well, people who are like overweight tried to get it free to get a second seat if you're flying, and they were able to like deflect that. So I think a lot of people think it'd be a similar process of trying to like, because flying's not like a necessary thing. Supposedly, according to the government, it's not like protected in the same way that like entering
insane.
a building is.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
God,
You
these
know,
airlines.
Oh, the airlines. I mean, there's so many things that you wouldn't think about not being like included in our basic human rights that aren't covered by like ADA and shit.
Well, that's why I remember briefly the can you get 2 free tickets for being bigger?
Yeah.
And it's just the way that America, you know, it became in the political point. It was like, stop. It
Quit
turns into the
eating,
thing where like,
you know.
you need to work out more. And it's like, guys, the bad guys are the airlines.
Also, it's half of America is fat.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So you're like this thing of like it's like literally people who are fat are being like just do what, and like you are the person that
Sure.
that needs the extra thing too.
It's like the people who ruined the college debt relief. Who are
It's
like, we
also
didn't
a
get
thing
it.
with planes where you're like, I've always been on a plane where I'm like, this is at least 15 years old, this plane. Do you mean
Yeah.
like, are they not making new planes anymore? Like just make them a little bit bigger
tell you-
and put in some big seats.
Did I tell you
for-
I was on a plane and the plane took off and the cockpit door swung open and I was like, oh my God, what? I thought this is like Garden.
in
It was like
9/11,
bulletproof,
like
yeah.
Everson Sierra. Yeah, that's crazy.
Just letting the terrorists
It
in.
hit the thing and I was like, oh my God. And no one's allowed to stand up for the beginning, and so
Yeah.
it just was.
The cockpit
I'm
door
like, we're
takes
gonna
out
die.
both
See the
pilots,
pilot.
crashes the plane.
I can't even imagine. It really does make me livid. That
Yeah.
makes me so.
It's not fun. It's
So angry.
I will say I don't really tweet very often, but if you look at my Twitter, like 4 of my 10 tweets are like, "Hey Delta, fuck you." All right, like what the fuck?
I have to fight so hard to not do those tweets. I flew JetBlue on Sunday, waited at baggage claim for 2 hours.
Oh my God.
And like it got stuck, and some of the people got their bags. There were married couples where one person got the bag, the other
Yeah.
didn't, and they were going to get divorced just to leave. So what age were you significantly taller than your peers?
I mean, the whole time.
The
I
whole
guess.
time.
Yeah, I hit like here's some milestones that I feel like give you a sense of where I was at. So 5 foot by kindergarten. 6
Wait,
foot. Yeah,
5 feet tall by kindergarten.
By kindergarten?
Kindergarten.
And they didn't know you had. They thought you were
Well,
just tall.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
5 feet?
But here's
I
the
do
thing.
have a
Here's the
question.
thing. I am the tallest at Marfan Conference, so I'm weirdly tall even in that.
What's a
community.
normal height for a kindergartner or an average?
Stop pretending like you don't know, Russell.
3 foot 4, 5? No, you're clearly a children's tailor, so stop pretending.
Yeah, it was a children's tale.
I don't even know if
Haberdasher.
pedophiles know that. Like, I don't. that's why I didn't understand.
That's
Like,
the
what
I
joke
think
you're
it
making.
was
No,
kind of my
pedophiles measure things in lengths of children.
John Mulaney had the joke about like I could tell the size of the kid's casket by the. It was some very dark joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
5 feet. Okay. All right. Let's guess.
Yeah.
How tall do you
would-
think the average kindergartner
Probably,
is?
I would guess around 3 feet.
Yeah, I'd say
Okay.
like 3.
3 something. 3 to 3 and a
4,
half.
Yeah.
You know.
2'4". I'm gonna be the outlier. I'm gonna say 2'8".
No, that's too short.
Let me look it up. Average size. Average size kindergarten. Oh, it says the FBI is blocking this search. Oh no, it's giving me the
How
average.
big of a bag do I need to get?
No, it's giving me fucking class size. How old are kindergartners?
6,
6.
5, and 6.
Okay, average
Height
height.
Height.
of a 6-year-old.
How many
Year.
kindergartners could I fit into a small van?
All right, average height of a 6-year-old boy is 42 to 49 inches.
42. So that's 3 feet.
A lot of math on
3
today's
feet.
episode.
3 feet. 6 inches. So 3.5 feet.
3.5 feet. And you were, goddamn.
Yeah, so I was way taller.
Now, were you doing any kind of sports at this time? Like, did you have any brief period where
yeah.
you got to be
Yes.
great on the court?
Well, no, I was never great. I was there. I was out there. But I wasn't great. It was like, so I was diagnosed when I was 11, and I was not diagnosed when I was 5. So like 5 to 11 was prime, like, oh no, he's fine. Let's make him play sports time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like my dad pressuring me. It was just random men on the street. Just being like, you better be playing ball.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I guess that's my task in life. Like, from when I was a kid, people were like, you're wasting your fucking height by not playing basketball. And I'm like, what does that mean? I mean, I shouldn't be alive?
You have a responsibility to get out
To
on
the rest
court.
of society, I have to get out there or I should be dead.
Yeah.
Did Shaq ask you, like, hey, you play ball?
No, we interacted very briefly. It was just him being excited about me being tall and me getting right back to like just filming and shit because he was about to go out and like DJ. But no, I would have. He probably would have. Like other tall people I've met in the past, like Dikembe Mutombo went to my movie theater a lot when I was a kid. The Hawks player.
Yeah, no, I know who Dikembe Mutombo is, but he just went to your movie theater?
Yeah, well, I'm from
I don't
Atlanta.
see him as existing in the regular world.
I'm from Atlanta. We happen to go to the same movie theater, so we see each other a lot. And then every time I like ask him a new question, because the first time he's like, oh, yeah, you play ball? I'm like, no, not really, because I was like 12 at the time, so I just got diagnosed, so I didn't play ball anymore. And I asked him where he got his clothes, and he said, the internet. And I was like, hell yeah, dude.
Where do you get your clothes now?
The internet.
There's a store, I got shirts from it for a while. It's called Tall and Slim. Or Tall... It's just the tall people store.
So I buy my pants from tootall.com.
Too tall.
Too tall.
So
Is it with a number?
Two.
Okay, yeah.
Doesn't that
the
imply
only
that
business
it's
that bullies me while I buy their clothes?
Exactly.
Like,
Too tall.
Too
You're too
tall.
tall.
Too
So
tall.
take these pants. You
What
you
size
little
do you want? Too
freak.
tall? Way
Yeah.
too tall?
Or
Jesus,
get the fuck out of
fucking
here, you freak of nature.
giraffe pants. Giraffes have long necks,
Stilt
not long
pants.
legs.
Yes.
But
I have worn stilt pants and they fit me one time. That was
get
wild.
out of here.
Yeah.
Stilt pants.
Yeah. Because I come from like a circus family, kind of.
Really?
Yeah, my mom was like an event coordinator and like designer, so she did a lot. Like we had like Cirque du Soleil kind of performers around her house all the time, and so just a weird bunch of people to be around, which helped me not feel as weird. I think.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Sure.
You know, they're looking at me. They're like, "Hey, you'd be super cool on stilts," or like, "Oh, I was a magician for my whole young life," so I was like, "That's my thing." All right, I do magic. I'm a big, tall magician guy. They're all doing fire breathing in my backyard and body painting in my kitchen.
I do think it's funny whenever you see. I go to weird museums sometimes and they show like the old freak shows.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you go, these are just people
Dude,
with
these are just
genetic
people.
disorders.
golden
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
I miss it.
It's very funny. Someone was like, let's get these disabled
we
people
gotta,
in a
like,
tent.
show this to
Let's-
people.
yeah.
We gotta show this to people. Yeah, it is crazy that was just called. Really, it
like
just
the
was-
bearded lady. It's just
Yeah,
like,
but yeah, it's work.
Lady's got a hormone issue. Check her out. Throw stuff at her.
when you got diagnosed, was it scary? Was it a relief? Was it like I knew something was different?
I mean, I knew something was different, but like I thought it was just me being tall. Like I think I didn't. It's a hard thing to, because when you're that young, it's a weirdly heavy thing to drop on your shoulders. You know, like I was thinking about the transition to middle school for the last year leading up to it, and then I got diagnosed with like a life-changing genetic disorder, and I went home and Googled it, and like up until 20 years ago, you had maybe 30 years to live with Marfan syndrome, and that's like
my
information
God.
that's still publicly available to people.
And what took people out?
I mean, yeah, for me, it took me out completely. I fully like kind of retreated into myself, got super depressed for like 4 years because like, you know, the surgeries that were developed that kind of basically made the difference is an aortic repair surgery, which I've had, where they replace the main valve of your heart and so it doesn't explode.
With what? With
Well, I think it's like a pig heart.
Wow. Wait, when did that happen? That they were able to figure that out to make this huge difference?
Between the time, like within the last 20 years. So like the doctors who name like Lois Dietz syndrome are still alive.
Yeah.
Like
So-
Dr. Dietz is like a person that I know who like established one of these similar disorders. So like it's all the last 30 years Marfan research has gone from zero to where it is now.
But what a wild thing to be like. I'm finding out you're having this thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die
Yeah.
by the time I'm 30 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And then to live through finding out that there's. What was that like? Like,
Oh,
like
it was
when
a
it was
whole-
announced that this all of a sudden there's this huge breakthrough.
Well, so that's the thing.
What was
the
that
breakthrough
experience?
had been made previously to me being diagnosed, but like I was 11 and I went home and I Googled this new thing that I had and I
Yeah.
saw 40 articles being like the average lifespan's 35. And I'm
Jesus
like,
did your
Christ.
parents know to be like, hey, let's Google it together so we can breathe through this? That's a rough
'cause that is-
Google.
oh my god! I would never leave. I don't know what would have happened if I were to find that information out.
Fuck you up.
So I don't know if you heard in my set, I have an interesting parent situation. I love my parents, but they're definitely like quirky. Like my dad's done a lot of ecstasy my whole life, like every day. So he's kind of a wild person to, like weekly. He's like,
So he's like, son, you're gonna become one with the universe in
gonna
30
fucking
years.
ascend. Like,
Yeah.
it's So there was definitely like they were dealing with their own stuff, and like my mom fully like disengaged from every part of it. Like she's like, I don't want to think about you dying, so I'm gonna not learn about this thing.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So my dad was like taking me to appointments, and he was the one in charge of all my medical stuff. And then my mom was like, well, I'll help schedule stuff, but I don't want to know the dangers and meet all your new friends who have the thing who might die in like 3 years. And it's like it's a whole like roller coaster. So it's like I definitely took, whenever I got that information, it threw me for like 3 years. Fully like I only did shit that I wanted to do, which it was an interesting moment to have. Like you kind of reprioritizes. You have to do a lot of things as a kid, but like when you're a kid who thinks they're dying, you don't have to do shit. Like I'm just like living above the academic world that I was like previously like drowning in. Yeah. Just like not giving a single shit about anything.
Are you even paying attention in class?
Oh no. I mean so that's when I started making movies because I had to stop playing basketball, and I would always skip basketball practice.
You had to stop because
I can't, like I could somewhat as a kid
because the heart
at a certain point like it's very dangerous for you to be playing basketball at like a high school level. Even middle school, elementary school, it's not recommended, but like kids will still do it just because it's
not just basketball. You mean aerobic activity,
any sport. So like any sport is off limits according to my doctor. And so, every person who's ever come up to me on the street, everyone who's ever interacted with me, gotten excited about me having a basketball career, told me to remember them one day when I'm accepting some NBA award. Like some guy at the sunglasses stand at the mall was like, I'm going to see you on TV one day. It's like.
Did you ever snap and go like, I'm going to be dead in 5 minutes, motherfucker?
It depends on the day. So like it was a whole process of like learning that, and then I went to my first Marfan Conference when I was 14 through this nonprofit. And so part of why I think I felt that way is I had never had anyone in my life who actually understood what I was going through and like had my same thing and could prove me wrong in a way that like wasn't my doctor being like, oh, you'll be fine, because that's what they're gonna tell you. They're doctors, all right? They're not gonna be like, you're fucked, kid. Like you're so this Marfan, what is this organization called? The Marfan Foundation.
The Marfan Foundation.
Yeah.
It's American based?
Yeah, it's used to be national, but now it's international, but it's mostly in America. They have a big conference once a year at a different location around the country where people can come and get like specialty medical care, get their screenings, because we have to get like echocardiograms and MRIs once a year usually. So
it's not just a fun conference, it's also like a medical checkup.
You have to, go and make sure you're getting like not everyone does that, because like I have access to that in my home state, so I can get like high quality clinic care. But there's a lot of people who live in like rural America who don't live within 8 hours of anyone who even knows what Marfan syndrome is, And
that
like,
conference has to be fascinating only because Marfan's has no political ideology. It's like it's got to be one of the biggest blends
most
of
diverse. I mean, touring, having that as like a network is crazy, because like I have people in every state. They come out to every show, and it's the most different people, and we're only friends because we have a medical thing that's like wrong with us. And it's that's another thing I'll mention later, but like it's I'm very thankful for that community. Almost some days so thankful for the community that like I find myself being thankful for the disorder, because like my life wouldn't be how it is and I wouldn't have access to these people and this kind of level of support. But that level of support wouldn't mean as much if I didn't need it.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, and this body, is there a president of it? Is there like a leader, or is it like? Yeah.
So there's a CEO, and it's like a big, corporate nonprofit. There's like, the heads currently were poached from the American Heart Association, so they're like big wig nonprofit people, and that's another one of my.
Are they not Marfan's people?
No one. Only one person who currently works for the foundation has Marfan syndrome, and it's my friend Dominga, and she is the lowest paid employee at the Marfan Foundation. Who they keep around as like a token.
You guys got to rise up.
No, we got to get some Marfans in there.
I don't know if it's going to make the greatest army in the entire world, but
we're not. Yeah, we're not fighters, but hey, we'll get there. All right. It's I mean, that's another one of my. God, I keep forgetting the name of the segment. That's gotta stop.
This gotta stop. Stop. This whole show is really this gotta stop.
Republicans running nonprofits for medical conditions.
It really does feel like a responsibility, even if you're very liberal, to be like, if you are the main organization for a medical condition, unlike many other areas where I'm like, you can say who you are, you should be apolitical because it's so important for this organization to.
Part of it is like the CEO of the Marfan Foundation votes against me having healthcare every election cycle.
Yeah.
So like, why am I leaning on you for support for a problem that you're helping create?
Yeah.
You know, like it's crazy.
Does it feel
crazy.
like you guys are you guys unified? Like, oh, who's going to get the Marfan vote this election? Like,
No.
is it?
Well, here's the thing. So like the board is full of people with Marfan syndrome and people who interact with the foundation, and they control the foundation as like it's the same as like a corporate, you know, any sort of corporate structure. But the people who are at the top of the foundation have a lot of financial ties. There's some things going on behind the scenes I'm not going to talk too much about just because not everything's public, but like I have a lot of direct connections with doctors who are in charge, who are responsible for getting a lot of the biggest donations that come into the foundation.
Yeah.
And so I've been working with them to make sure that certain things are earmarked for like a camp that I do for kids with Marfan syndrome. Certain things are earmarked for conference and they can't be spent anywhere else on, you know, 5-figure dinners and 7-figure compensation for the CEO every year. 7 figures for a medical nonprofit.
It's insane.
So in terms of, I never know what's the terminology in terms of like someone who has Marfans to a degree where they live less. Do you say, oh, their Marfans is extreme or they have more?
Well,
or?
so there's neonatal Marfan syndrome, which is like a specific kind of type, and that's you can see it from birth. Typically, it's most commonly found in kids of 2 people with Marfan syndrome already, or you get like a weird anomaly and it's just like a more severe version of the disorder.
Is it discouraged then for you to have a partner that has Marfan's?
That's a whole thing too.
Because I was wondering, you're having these conferences, you're all going there, you have things in common.
Oh, yeah.
There's got to be some fucking.
I lost my virginity at Marfan conference.
Okay.
Sure.
Because I was 14 and I was like, man, no one will ever want to touch me. And then I'm like, man, it's everyone who also thought that. That's crazy.
Do they provide you guys with longer beds?
No. They love scheduling conference in a place with the lowest possible ceilings and no wheelchair access. So we're just carrying people upstairs.
You got to make a show, man. I love you get to a conference room and it's the ceiling's too low for every attendee at that conference, except for the president.
Yeah, except for the non-affected people who are in charge of the foundation. Yeah.
So that was you lost your virginity at 14?
15, yeah.
15.
Yeah.
And you went to that conference and it was just
it was like, yeah, you know, it was like 15-year-old like fooling around kind of
sure,
stuff.
sure.
And she was like, it was like the situation, she was very nice and older and we had been hanging out the whole weekend and like it was
How
very
much
much
older
like,
are we talking about
like
here?
17.
Okay.
So
It's okay.
like,
So
We've heard some stories on, I mean,
No,
where did your
no,
mind
no,
go?
it's not-
My mind went to 50,
not
60.
a crime. Not a crime. No.
Not a crime.
okay, thank God. Wow.
Yeah.
What was it like when you went to that conference? Was it glorious? Was it?
I mean, so going from literally never meeting a single other person with Marfan syndrome to meeting 601 weekend is crazy.
Yeah.
Like that like 35 number that I had in my head, I literally met a man who was 72 that weekend. And I met like a dozen people who were over 35.
That must be great to be that guy and walking around and know everyone that sees him is like,
Christine, shout out.
woo!
I know, yeah.
Hell yeah!
Still alive.
And he's not even the oldest one. Like there's people living, you can live a pretty normal life with it as long as you're really on top of your medical care. And like, you know, there is more possibility for you to have like a premature death, but like, and I've unfortunately one of the side effects of being brought together in a community around a medical disorder is that you will lose people, and that's part of it. You know, it's like I have to lean on these people when my life is hard, but these people have my same thing, and so like not everyone makes it, you know, and it's tough to deal with, but like at the end of the day, we're all thankful that we have it, you know. Like sometimes it's a little overwhelming to be like not only dealing with your thing but also knowing that could happen to me, like that my friend who was like 20, he would be 27 now, passed away like 2 years ago. Just random, like heart.
It just random.
Like did not expect it at all. Just didn't show up to conference next year. We had like a memorial, but yeah, now every year we have like a memorial for someone we lost in the last year. So it's like, it's not everyone is as sustainable as me, I'd say. Like I'm very lucky with how it's affected me, but like it manifests itself differently with everybody.
Yeah, it's just got to be. I just can't imagine just having to adjust to like dealing with losing people that frequently and early.
There are times where it makes you want to like step away from the community and only focus on like your issues, but then you find yourself like I've found a lot of my purpose in this like late. I don't know. I keep wanting to say later part of my life just because I've like lived a lot.
But you have
very early.
I think about I'm 34 now. And I certainly like in the last couple of years, I was like, fuck, I am getting older and I'm experiencing life. And I know there will come a day where I have more people that I know that will die. It's still infrequent.
Yeah.
People I'm really close with.
Right.
And I know that will be a phase of life.
Yeah.
And it'll be jarring. And I will at least hopefully be in my 30s or 40s or 50s. I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
Because how old are you?
I'm 23.
You're 23.
23. Yeah.
And it's like,
and I've lost like 5 friends just since attending conference. Like people I've known
in the last 8
pretty
years.
well. Yeah. And they're not all young, but like, some people are older, but it's still like, I mean, a 55-year-old man whose son goes to camp every year, died last year randomly. And now I have to see his son next year at camp and be like, hey, sorry about your dad. We're all sad for you.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to camp. Let's all have this thing still. Like,
Wait, so back to Russell's question about in terms of having children. What is the who even says like, hey guys, here's our thoughts on this? Like what do doctors
it's like that's probably the most contentious area of this because everyone in any community, especially like you said with one where there's no like political like homogeny with like how we feel, so it's like you get the most differing opinions on that issue because some people think like gene therapy is the way to go. That's like the future. They think like being able to find out if your kid is going to have Marfan syndrome and remove the gene through like CRISPR, and I know someone who has had both of his kids through that process and they've both come out great and he's very happy that he did it. But then some people, a lot of like religious people have a problem with that for certain reasons. A lot of
what are your views on it?
I mean, I don't know. It's a tough thing to like. I wouldn't want my kid to have to experience the hardship that I've experienced, but it is a little weird to be like building a kid like that. It's like it's weird to be like, oh, and I'm gonna take this experience that I've experienced away from this kid, not just not have a kid because of it, but I'm like gonna have a kid, but I'm gonna make sure that kid doesn't have I would probably do it, but I understand where the hesitation comes from because there's an element of like, do I hate myself because of those feelings about that process? Like, do I want to reject this massive part of who I am? And like, it's selfish to want to put that on a kid just because you have something, but like,
I guess the closest I could, like, if someone told me if I could have a kid and remove depression, like originally I thought like balding, but then I'm like, no, something that I actually, because balding would be an easy, I'd say, please, take this away from me. But I can understand what you're saying. I mean, not fully, obviously, but like a degree of like, what would that mean? What would that take away from them? And that idea of designing, because I think in my head, the immediate impulse I have is, truthfully, is like, oh yeah, do the CRISPR.
Yeah.
But so you think you would?
I think I would. There's been some new things with the foundation where like they've started talking more in a like we're trying to cure Marfan syndrome lens, and that's the side of the argument that makes me kind of hesitate with that direction because it becomes, an institution trying to teach us how to not have more disabled children or like fixing the fact that children are being born disabled. It's like they're trying to like. It feels very like autism speaks. It's very like, oh, we're trying to like fix this thing that's inherently built into a lot of people already, and that's our main message. Is we're just going to focus on fixing the next generation and then neglect the existing people.
That makes a lot of sense.
Like if we keep having more people with Marfan syndrome, that research keeps getting developed. But if we don't, we're just fucked. Like,
Sure.
people
Like
stop caring
if
about us at a
suddenly
certain
no
point.
one ever needed a wheelchair again, except for those that currently do, it's not like society is going to become more accessible for people with
Exactly.
wheelchairs.
It would
Yeah.
be much less accessible like the day after that was realized, I imagine. Like as soon as, because like if you using Autism Speaks as an example, the reason they had so much funding is because one of the co-founders of Home Depot's son had autism. And that was like what got him into being an activist in that lane.
Yeah.
And so like if that's not possible, then we're fucked, you know?
I see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
So like we don't have new, I hate to say it, like fresh blood being like brought into the community of people with like power and
No, it's
resources
blunt,
who
but it's
want
truthful.
to help.
Yeah.
Who want to help, because like at a certain point, once we get into this community, we all are like trying to help each other, you know, and like the medical side of it's trying to help, the community side of it's trying to help. It's all trying to, we're all trying to make this work the best we can, but like, you know, it's if we don't have new people coming in and we're just like have the same group of people who've had this thing and are slowly falling apart, it's much easier to kind of cast us aside when some celebrity like Troye Sivan has Marfan syndrome.
Who is he? Forgive me.
He's the
musician?
singer, yeah.
Okay.
Like big, very popular among like younger people, and he helped a lot of people
Okay,
get
we
diagnosed.
got it. We understand.
Yeah,
We're older.
You young.
I knew who it was.
When I said younger people, I wasn't counting myself. All right, so I want you to know that I'm not calling you old. I'm just
He's cool with us on Snapchat. Okay, so then in terms of you, so you're growing up, you have this conference,
Yeah.
you're learning more.
that totally like changed my whole, because you know you go from like, oh, I'm gonna die at 35 to like, oh no, I have a pretty normal life ahead of me, and most people don't have that like come to Jesus moment with their mortality until they're like 70, you know, like it's you fall in the shower, you're like, oh shit, I can die, let me like re-pivot how I want my life to look. I had that when I was 11, you know, and then to 14, so it definitely. Then I really hit the ground running hard with film, and I was trying more in school, like just doing things with more like longevity in mind, you know, like making decisions that factored a future into that, you know?
Yeah. And meanwhile, your parents are unaware of your entire emotional life.
I mean, you know, my dad was in this, you know, like I've seen him cry a few times in my life, and one of them is when I got diagnosed, and he was like processing, you know, the fact that like this is a thing that I'm gonna have to deal with forever, and you know, the responsibility that he felt, even though neither of them have Marfan syndrome. That's another thing. It's like usually it's a 50-50 shot of one parent who has Marfan syndrome giving it to the next generation. There's also genetic mutations that are just spontaneous, and that's what I have.
Really? Like. Because back to my thing, the reason I got tested is because they thought one of my grandparents might have had, and you know, they look at me and I'm lanky and they say slender fingers or whatever, and so that's why they tested.
I have a bunch of family with similar symptoms to me as well who don't have like an official diagnosis, and I don't think that they have it, but I do think like, and this is very like unconcrete science, I do think there's like something where like there can be a perfect storm of like different features all coming together in one person, because like my parents both each have different aspects of like Marfan features, so they were like testing both my parents, being like, which one of you has it? Neither.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of my dad had a heart surgery last year, a quintuple bypass, and of course I immediately made it about myself, where I thought of like, oh, I'm gonna need whatever this is someday. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm trying to eat a little
That
better.
one's not as certain, but yeah.
Yeah. But what age did you go, oh, I'm going to need to get this surgery someday? Because for me, that's an existential terror in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had my first major surgery when I was 12, and I had like 11. I had knee plates put in to like correct my knees were like growing inward, and they were like knocking whenever I walked, and so they had. Like,
Did it hurt? Like they were just hitting each other?
Yeah, I would have like bruises on the inside of my knees from like walking around.
Oh my God.
So they put those plates in, that corrected over time, and then the next year, I had to fix my feet. So it was like I in-toed as well. So they cut my tibia and fibula in half on both legs and rotated them.
Oh man.
So yeah.
Every time these surgeries happened, were you out of school for a while? Did it fuck up your social life?
Oh yeah. I mean, and keep in mind these two surgeries were happening in the process of me being like, I don't give a fuck about school or anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh dude,
And the doctor was like,
home.
really? Well, we're taking you out.
They're like, oh, well, they're like, yeah, we're going to take you out of school. So, like, oh, but we want you to zoom in to your classes. And I was like, absolutely the fuck not. I'm not doing any of that. So I just was out of school for 3 months while I was learning to walk again. Like, it was crazy. I had, like, toe to thigh casts for, like, 2 months. Yeah.
Just lying in bed.
Lying in bed,
Were you-
scooting around the house with my arms and with furniture sliders under my heels.
This is when you were 12, so this is 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is 2000.
And then, yeah, so those were my first big two.
Not that long ago.
12.
It's not.
It's not that
And they
long.
were
I
like,
lived in New York City then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
yeah.
And then so then the heart.
That was when I was like, okay, like I'm gonna have to be getting surgeries on a semi-regular basis throughout my life. Like when I had 2 before a year and a half of having this thing, I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, all right, we're about to be doing this.
I got a hernia surgery 6 years ago. I'm still complaining about it every couple days.
I love how that burst out of you. Like I also got a surgery. All right,
But like I'm just saying,
I
the dread. I'll tell you, I think about all the time. The dread that comes up in my mind is I just remember they rolled me into the hospital room.
Yeah.
It's my first surgery, and all I remember is there were like multiple doctors all surrounding me. I know they have something in me. I see the big light or whatever,
Yeah.
and it feels like a horror movie.
Oh, yeah.
Feels like a torture device. Feels like oh, just kill me instead of whatever's about to happen.
Yeah.
And
How
I
old
started
were you when you did this one?
I mean, I was 26.
See, when you're a kid, they give you Valium, and it's great.
Well, let me tell you something. If I can get it next time, I 100% will because I was sobbing.
Yeah.
And there was a nurse. It felt like her whole job was just to like rub my chest and get me to breathe. And honestly, I feel like the second surgery is going to feel scarier just because I know that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely moments where I feel like it was shocking and jarring, and like the whole process I kind of took in stride more than most people because it was like the one time in my life when like everyone was focused on me just existing and being like, good job for waking up this morning, you know? It's like very affirming. And so like whenever you're coming off of that, you know, I was like 17, I got that heart and chest surgery. So it was a double whammy surgery. They had to take all the cartilage out of my chest.
I like the doctor being like, we're going to need to do a double whammy surgery.
Yeah. So this is a twofer. All right. So they took all the cartilage out of my chest, restructured my entire chest because it was indented so far that it was like pressing on my lungs and stuff. So they fixed all that, fucked it up. So they had to take 2 of my ribs out. I found that out afterwards. It was crazy just to learn after you wake up. Like,
Are you
by the
able-
way, nope, I tried it. Nope, unfortunately, not even the Marilyn Manson ribs. All right, just 2 random.
Just
ribs.
2 random ribs.
Yeah.
Not even the dick sucking ribs.
I got the Manson surgery without any of the Manson benefits. All right, and I'm mad about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it just like, and then I also had the aortic replacement. So it was they just did everything while they were in there. But coming out of that and coming off of like, I was in the hospital for a week on that one, and I like set a record for like the shortest recovery time for that surgery. And I did that with every one of my surgeries that I did at the children's hospital. So I was just dunking on these kids. I was just like fucking, I was like the physical therapy people's job was to be like, Liam, are you sure you should be walking right now? Like that was their like,
Yeah.
and I was like, I pulled my own morphine like 2 days in because I was like, I'm gonna get.
You
better.
pulled it yourself?
Yeah, because it made me feel bad. So I was like, all
Really?
right, hit me with some like oral meds, and I'm taking this out. All right, and they're like, okay.
Morphine. I thought morphine is like the best.
No, it's terrible. It makes your bones feel cold and.
Oh God,
Yeah.
life is pain. Before that surgery, were you confident that it was going to be fine, or did you like, I'm gonna have ice cream the day before, just in case this is my.
I was confident I was gonna be fine until.
I mean, that's a big. They're putting pig heart.
So my mom was the one who drove me to the surgery in the morning, and which is just what a terrible idea for that. I ended up having to talk her down like the whole pre-surgery like hour, being like, "No, Mom, it's okay, I'll be fine."
She was like
Yeah.
mourning
She
your
was like
death in front of
crying.
you.
She was like panicking that I was gonna
Yeah.
die, and I
Oh
was like,
my
I
God.
haven't really been panicking this whole time, but you know what? I might consider it.
Yeah.
So,
There is something when you're younger, because I remember I had my appendix out and it had like burst.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those things where we were on vacation and I was feeling really bad for a few days. And it was like bad enough where I couldn't really walk. And so we went to like a walk-in and they were like pretty quickly like, oh, we need to get him into emergency surgery. And they took me in an ambulance to the hospital.
Damn.
And it was like this thing where I was like, I was 12 and I was like, right now, if this happened to me, it would be so much scarier to me when I was 12.
Yeah.
But I remember my parents being like, my mom was crying, and I was like, "What? This doesn't seem like it's an appendix, like But like it had burst and it was leaking for like 3 days, like into.
You definitely have a lot more trust in like a doctor when you're that young.
When you're young, you're just like, it seems like it's going to be fine,
this is
but
the
your
guy who
parents are
does
communicating
this
their eyes. You're like, they're much more worried.
Oh, my mom was doing it with her mouth and her tears. She was actively sobbing and being like, "Please don't
this
go."
is it.
Oh
This
my
is it.
God.
So I
She's
took a
holding
double-
onto the bed.
I had to take a double dose of Valium that time. Also, because like when they roll you into the thing for orthopedic surgery, it's grim in there.
Why?
The tool table is just power tools.
Oh my God.
There's like a Ryobi circular saw on the table.
No!
It's like
I
a
know.
white like circular saw, but with just like a finer blade.
Why are
on
they
it.
letting
That's
you
what they use.
see that? Why are they letting you see that?
Well, because they thought I was.
Me.
They thought I was like.
You think the
Put me
doctor
to
comes
sleep.
out, puts a
Put me
little
to sleep in the
blindfold?
waiting room.
So they only bring it in as you're like going down, and it takes me longer to go down because I'm a big person, I guess, and I'm built different, and so I always catch the instrument table coming in right before I go out. So it's the last thing in my head before this surgery. So I'm just dreaming of all the like tools, and I come out of the surgery, and the guy's like, "Oh man, it took us an extra hour and a half to saw through your chest cavity because your bones are so thick." I was like, "Why would you tell me that?"
You know what I thought? Like, because we all have heard the horror stories, they take off the wrong leg.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that. And I remember when my dad was getting the heart surgery, I think I was there long enough that I was like, this is these people's work.
Yeah.
And like, what if one
And
of
you know
them
your
had a
work.
bad,
Yeah.
You know
like
how
what
often
if
things
one
go
of them
wrong in your
had
work.
a bad
What
day?
if this doctor bombs?
You realize you're just like, you
One little sneeze,
Yeah.
yeah, they're just tired, or they're just like, ugh, I thought I had today off.
Yeah.
And like that could change. You
or they
being
have plans.
alive.
They have plans later. They're like, I'll just speed this along a little
Speed
bit.
this
I got
along.
a birthday party to go to.
I heard a story of a composer. He had dinner plans, and so he just sped up the tempo a little bit for the whole opera, just so he could make his dinner plans. And of course, if you're doing surgery every day, that's what's gonna happen.
You get
Yeah.
so desensitized to it. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Because, like, when the guy was like, "Hey, by the way, I fucked it up," I was like, "What? You did what now? Like, you messed it up, so you had to take 2 of my ribs out? Like, how did that happen? Explain yourself." And he's like, "Oh, it's fine. You'll be fine." And then that was all the explanation.
Legally, I don't know if he should have phrased it that way. I feel like,
what he actually said was like
fucked
there
it
were
up.
some complications because it took longer, so we ended up taking 2 of your ribs
There's some
out.
complications. I fucked up.
Whoop,
I had a little whoopsie daisy.
didn't realize it wasn't a Marilyn Manson surgery, so I gave you an extra one for free. All right.
Which could you feel them? Were you like, oh, that rib's not there?
I don't know which ones they were. They didn't. They never told me. They offered to give them to me covered in gold, or like I can get them bronzed by the hospital, which is what a scheme
That's not
that
a
is.
service.
They're like, yeah, we'll give you your thing, but you have to pay
Hospital.
us a bunch of money to put it in bronze first.
Can I ask a question? Do
They
you
should be
know
ashamed.
the answer to this? Do Hasidics or Orthodox Jews, do they get pig hearts put in, or are they like, no, we can't do that?
That's a good question.
Because I bet you it's a no, we can't do that, and that'll make me very upset. Yeah. Do you look at pigs differently now?
I mean, we definitely have a kinship. You know, there's like a little like, hey,
Yeah.
you and me. All right. No, I like.
If they had offered you, this is a horrible question, but tell me the truth. If they said, hey, we have the rest of the pig, do you want to eat it? Would you eat the pig?
Well, yeah, I already took his heart.
Yeah, if it's already dead. I mean, like what dish? What dish are we making with the pig?
Whatever you
A
want.
ham.
I have
Christmas
to cook.
ham.
A big Christmas ham?
I have to cook my sacrificial pig. If someone else who's good at cooking will make it for me, I'll eat the pig.
I feel like I would be like, no, give the pig a proper burial.
It's
Put
the,
it in a
like-
casket.
No, it's
Well,
like the
it's like
Native
the- I
American
was about
thing
to
of
say,
like,
yeah, use the
like
whole
let's use the
buffalo.
whole thing.
Oh
you know?
yeah, you're really going to your Native American roots,
His roots,
Russell.
Okay,
yeah.
Now
I'm just-
all of a sudden you care about Native American
Yeah.
traditions.
No, I'm just saying like that is a thing.
When it involves eating some
It-
bacon, you're like, you know what? The Native
Fuck
Americans
you.
had
It
some
involves.
real
It,
points.
I feel like it's more respectful to use it
Yeah.
rather than
Sure.
just put it.
I'd make a jacket out of it. I mean, fuck it. You're like,
Yeah.
I try to bring him back to life so he could be my friend. To give him
Yeah.
my old heart, see if
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah.
Do a little swap.
hey,
Yeah,
that's a
swap
nice little
hearts.
swap.
Pen pals, you know.
So let's talk something a little lighter. You played Chewbacca.
Yeah, at parties.
Oh.
Yeah, not in the movie.
No. Bury the lead. Like
You were just talking about how much you love Star Wars.
Yeah,
so.
right? You're like,
wow,
the
fake fan
original.
didn't even know that
He's the
the guy who
original,
plays
23 years
Chewbacca.
old.
He does it in Spaceballs, actually. That's what it is. My favorite movie, Spaceballs.
So you perform Chewbacca at parties?
Parties, yeah.
Do you own a costume?
No. And
Okay.
that's the gig.
I was
As
wondering.
someone else does, but it only fits me. So
Yeah.
I just
Is it like a
own-
good costume?
It's a pretty good
Is
costume.
Chewbacca
yeah.
technically supposed to be 7 feet? Like, do they
Yeah,
have a...
He's tall.
So weird story.
Yeah, I know
I
he's
have
tall.
met both of the Chewbaccas.
He's not a Wookiee.
Listen, I know more about Chewbacca than you do.
Yeah, Star Wars expert, Native American expert.
So,
Yeah.
wait, is this a guy who owns a costume or like
Yeah,
a
it's
company?
like he's a magician friend who
of course.
was like, hey, I got a Chewbacca costume, and the guy who was 6'6", who used to wear it, doesn't want to anymore because he's moved up in life. I'll make it bigger just for you, and then he did, and so now I do that at
It's
kids'
funny if you're
parties
wearing a
and frat
Chewbacca
parties.
costume and then stops at the knee and
Yeah.
your feet are still
Do
sticking
you
out.
do you have to make noises? Like, do you have to do the thing?
I mean, I don't have to, but I do it.
Okay,
'cause
so
I'm-
can you do it right now? Like,
all right, I might need some water after this because
Okay.
I'm about to choke, but
you did it.
All right,
Pretty
let's see
good,
yours.
huh?
Let's
I
see
can't
yours.
do it.
Try
come
it.
on. Chewbacca choking to death.
Well, that's really bad.
Excuse, that's offensive. All right, don't,
yeah.
Please don't imitate my people like that.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate it.
I'm trying to
That's
think.
our word.
You sounded like something there just now. Do it again.
No, I can't do it. No.
That's what they should have used in The Whale
Yeah.
for the opening scene. That sound.
When he came, that's what it was. Is it good money?
For like, I started doing it when I was 17. So like, yeah, back then it was like $100 an hour. Like it's not bad.
Hey, that's not bad at all.
Are there other people? Other
Yeah.
characters?
Oh yeah, and it's always like a random. So like kids parties and frat parties are the two like things that I do mainly. So it's
Which one's more fun?
They're kind of similar. You know,
Yeah.
they're like one of them. They're both just. I'd have a joke about it. It's like people just stumbling around trying to touch you with sticky fingers. Like
Yeah.
everyone, it's pretty much the same. And like the drunk frat dudes act the same way as like a sugar high 9-year-old in the way that they want to punch me in the fucking chest. You know.
I would feel so guilty if I was at a party and there was a Chewbacca. I'd be like, hey, you don't have to do this.
A
Just
lot of
join
people
the party.
do that, but then also there's people who like. I've run into people who I know in real life while in the costume. Like I remember my second time ever doing it. I was 17 years old, and a girl who was a senior at my high school was at the frat party, and she was like 19, and she came up and grabbed my ass and like jumped on my back and took a photo. And I went up to her the next day at school, and I was like, "Hey, remember, good seeing you this weekend." And she's like, "Where did I see you?" I was like, "Oh, I was the Chewbacca from that party." And then she goes white, and then we never spoke again. She like avoided me in this school of like 250 people for the rest of the time that she was there.
That's all it takes, a costume, and they're like, I'm going to sexually harass this
Oh,
creature.
it's crazy. Yeah, I mean,
people are.
truly, the costume is not. It's like the novelty of it, because like I get touched a lot just out of the costume too. Like they just think I'm like a sideshow that I should be like, oh, you know, like very aggressive gay men grab my ass a lot because like I'm like a spectacle,
Yeah.
you know, like
So they
I'm-
grab your ass?
Oh yeah, I work a lot of events, so like people will come up and do that as like a joke. It's a common joke. I don't know if you know jokes, Gianmarco.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that Uncle Function show where every single member of Uncle Function was harassed by a person?
There was a guest, and he really. What did he do to you? I mean, he was
He
just
grabbed
like,
all of our butts at one point and like was like really like pretty like aggressive in terms of like in a way that you're like you can't like it was a post a time where you're like you got to be a little more careful. Sir.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
sure.
Like he was really like handsy.
yeah.
yeah.
He did to all of us. He made all of us feel like he was doing it to just us, and we didn't realize till the end of the night that he had kind of assaulted all of us.
Serial groper.
We all came forward. Ronan Farrow reached out to each of us the next day, and we made a case. Yeah, it definitely is. I had a barber once in New York. Who, whenever I was like at a summer program here, I saw this barber, and he would harass me the whole appointment. And I think something about me was like, it was like interesting.
Yeah.
It was interesting to just have a grown man be like, "You're so beautiful." And then there was one session where like, whenever he blew the hair off, he'd go like, And there was one where it crossed the line.
It was
for
too much
me,
for you.
where I said like, this feels creepy.
Yeah.
And it was a different time.
Yeah.
I was okay with it. I was like fine with it, but like it was just like a line. I have my own line. I think
was
my
gay
line is
back
probably pretty far.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I did some show. I used to have a joke. And ended with me like bending over and at a gay bar and someone giving me a big slap on the ass, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when they do it to you, do you go like, okay, whatever?
I mean, I think it depends on the context. It's when it's like just them doing it to like make their friends laugh. My response is usually to be like, "Oh, wow. Oh, do you feel important?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you, buddy. Oh, wow."
Yeah.
It gets
It's
them real
definitely
good.
weirder out of costume too. Like
Yeah.
you're like, this is just me as a person.
Well, yeah, it's like the
you know.
dehumanization. Like
Yeah.
just because I'm like unique and weird looking to them, they think I'm there for their
Yeah, that's
entertainment. Like I was in
fucked up.
Chicago one time. I was standing on a street corner, and this lady comes up to me. She's like, "Hey, can I have a picture with you? I'm a tourist." And I was like,
What?
"Is this on your like walking tour?" Am I like, if you look to your left, you see the big fucking tall guy.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not a spectacle for you to take a picture with. I'm a person.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah. No.
It's weird. Because I've always like looked older than I am too. So
Sure.
it's like I was 6 feet tall, 11 years old, having full grown women come up and like touch me in weird ways, or like full grown men coming up and touch me in weird ways in like a party setting. They're drunk or whatever. But like, I remember when I was a kid, I went to Pride every year because I was just around that community a lot. And I grew up with like, everyone who was in my life was gay because my mom worked with performers. So I would go every year. And I remember going there and getting hit on by like adult men when I was like 12. And my response was like, "Oh man, wish I was gay. I'd be killing it right now." Like, shit. Like, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on to our segment.
This has gotta stop.
We've done a lot of this has got to stop.
Yeah.
But is there another one you
oh,
wanted
there's
to?
some more. Shit. Can I pull up my list?
Yeah.
Yeah,
please.
go ahead. I'm trying to think if I have any of this has got to stop,
Let
Russell.
me look at my thing. I have my list.
Good. This is great audio.
Audio.
We're not editing at all. Let me do another plug real quick for the Patreon.
Okay.
Guys, the Patreon, sometimes people, you might not even want extra episodes. This might be just right for you. But the Patreon is a good way to support the show. So go to patreon.com/downside. We got some exciting news coming up. We found it today. You have a This Gotta Stop?
I do. Okay,
What's
this is
your
a
This
real,
Gotta
very
Stop?
specific one. Okay, but it's a joke.
Just so you know,
it's a joke
as like a
premise.
side, you preface every blessing and This Gotta Stop. You either go like, it's really short, or you go, this one's bad,
Okay.
or you go, this is fine.
Okay.
So
Why do we have
what's
you
your,
here?
This is okay. So this is very specific. Let me just say it's very specific.
Good.
I hope you get the reference. It's a joke thing that happens in TV shows. And I've seen it so many times that I can't see it one more goddamn time in my life. Okay, so this is the joke structure. This character on a TV show, they're going through something. They get dumped or something, and then they see a young couple in love, and then they're like, it's all nice in the beginning, but then one day you come home, and then they say a very specific thing that is like not related. And how many hundreds of TV shows have used this structure or movies, and it drives me nuts because we've seen it so many times that I'm like, who's laughing at that setup anymore? You know what I mean? Like,
so
we're-
they say it to the couple.
they say it to like a young couple or someone going through something. So it's basically like you're having a mental breakdown about something very specific, and then you see and you make it about yourself to someone else. And we've all seen that breakdown happen. And they're like, it's all nice in the beginning, but then do you know what I mean?
Well, I do know what you mean. What was the movie or TV show you saw?
I
it
can't
in?
remember now. I wrote this down weeks ago, but I was in some sitcom I remember watching.
I like
and
this.
It was like,
you can totally come in with like sitcom tropes that need to stop because there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. The one that I've seen so many times, it used to be. I remember I was watching an episode of Cheers. I was watching an episode of Golden Girls, and it was I know I like the back of my hand. And then they look at the back of their hand and they're like, what's that mole? You know what I mean? Like, there's like things like that you're like, how is that specific thing used so much? You know what I mean? So there's just like, that happens all the time in sitcoms. And anyways, I hate that one.
I like that a lot. I like that as a this has got to stop thing.
Things on sitcoms.
Yeah. My this got to stop. It's a quick one. There was a comedian, a very famous comedian who like he sold a special saying, they wanted me to take out these jokes, and I said no, so I'm self-releasing it. And I believe deep in my soul that is not true. The jokes that were referenced as the jokes they took out, I have seen plenty of. I have seen almost anything in mass-produced comedy specials, and I am now seeing it as a trend. There was another comedian who posted a video who said, I'm trying to keep this vague. I don't know this person personally, but they basically said, like, Amazon wouldn't let me put this joke out. And here's the thing. It was uploaded to Amazon Prime. I have a special on Amazon Prime. No one approves a special on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's slightly above YouTube in terms of it just takes time to process.
Don't behead anyone in it, and you're good.
It is such a... It's the laziest marketing tool I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
You're appealing to the dumbest motherfuckers in the world, and then they show a joke that is like, you know, I guess what? It's a joke at Biden's expense, as if that's taboo. That's not taboo.
You know, Joe
You
Biden
can
up here
make fun of Joe
controlling
Biden.
Netflix.
Yeah.
But this idea that it was canceled, it's so bad. You'd have to say something so batshit insane. You'd have to something pro-incest or something about fucking a dog and then show a video of you doing it to be removed. Do not lie. You are encouraging just this dumb line of thinking of like fake censorship that does not exist.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. You fucking losers.
Yeah.
Just write a good dark joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really hate it as a marketing tool, and it's got to go away because it's got to be debunked. So that's why this got to stop.
Yeah.
All right.
Liam.
All right, I've got a couple. I got
Go
to
for it.
some of them throughout. This got to stop. People being offended on behalf of disabled comics. Like when I come out and I say I have a disability and then they can't laugh for the rest of the set. They're just too busy awing the whole time. Go fuck yourself. I'm a person. All right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is one of the challenges of being a disabled comedian is like you have to set the tone until you're well known.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like Josh Blue, he goes out there and people people know who he is.
Yeah.
But when you're an up and comer, and that title lasts for a long time, if not forever.
Yeah.
You have to establish it. I mean, and your go-to. I mean, I saw what one of your go-tos was.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm 7 feet tall.
7 feet. Can we all shut the fuck up about it now?
Yeah.
I'll like come out and just say that up top. But yeah, it's like it definitely is an issue that you have to run into because it can really fuck up your whole set, especially when the audience is like on board until you say you have a disability, and then they're like, oh, we feel bad for you now.
Yeah.
So we can't laugh at anything you have to say.
I hate the like. I hate to when an audience member needs to have their reaction be known.
Yeah.
Like in the way of like, 'cause there's a way to be like if they genuinely feel bad and that they just get a little quieter, but it's the awes
Like,
or like
"Aw."
or if someone doesn't like something. I hate when someone. I've just had a week of like a couple of shows where someone didn't like I said a certain thing in the show and they're like, oh, like that kind of like sound.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck you. Go fuck yourself. Oh, you have to make this sound known that you don't approve of me saying this thing.
Yeah.
Go. It's like
No, you say the word cunt.
I say cunt.
You say cunt.
Yeah.
Which people sometimes have that reaction. I say cunt a lot too.
I'm surprised that it has. I guess I'm surprised that it hasn't been a deal until it was a couple of times, and
then you have a second thing. If they don't like cunt, you yell at them more, right? Because when Russell tells me, you know, because I feel like I don't enjoy your pain, but because I deal with that
all the time
with
I'm not
stand up,
used to it.
I go places and I'm like, yeah, you're now performing for some audiences that like aren't gonna like you, and that's good. I
Yeah.
think that's good in the long run for a comedian.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny because you're like, if they don't like it, you do something following that. I'm like, oh, well, they're definitely not going to like
No,
that
I know.
second
I know.
beat.
I made the mistake of like this. People had a reaction to me saying "cunt," and they were like, "Oh," and then I was like, "Oh," like fuck.
But in your mind, like you
Like-
might do this, and they'd be like,
Yeah,
you're right. We're
no,
full of shit.
No, there was no part of my mind that was like, well, this will make them laugh. It was mad.
You want
it
them
was
to
like
feel
I
bad.
wanted
I
them
want
to feel
them to have
bad.
a
I wanted them
worse
to be like,
time.
you shouldn't be making these noises. noises at this show, because if you don't like something, you can just shut the fuck up and leave, or you can just shut the fuck up. Like, either laugh or don't laugh. But I hate when people are like, have to have it known that they don't approve of something, because you're at an R-rated show,
publicly offended.
like you're at a thing, you know, like
How much are they paying for tickets?
fuck off. It really is not the majority of thing. It was one.
I want to
audience
make this the
thing.
Titanic like commercial. Like, it's just like, if you're not in for, shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. Titanic.
I just don't like the thing of like, here's the thing. I guess it's so rare in my life to feel offended that I feel like there's some people in their existence, they just have to make it known when they don't like something. And I'm like, it's okay that you don't like it. That's fair. That's fair that you don't like it. You don't like that word. You don't like to use it. I just don't think you should try to make everyone else's experience be that way, you know? And that's what it feels like. It feels like, oh, I have to let everyone know that I don't like this right now.
Yeah.
No, it's tough. It's
You know?
tough to, deal with being a disabled comedian.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
Disabled
Russell
Native
can totally
American.
Native American.
I can
Star Wars
totally
loving
relate to
comedian.
what you deal with on a daily basis.
No, that's definitely tough. But
Yeah.
as more people know you, I get that.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Sorry,
Sorry,
another
I
one?
co-opted your thing to yell about
No, you're
this
good.
one woman.
Please do.
It was just one woman
No,
too.
it was like her and her friend. I
Happy to
think.
sponsor this vendetta that you have going here. I'll go beat her up for you too. All right, this has got to stop. Men doing cocaine at bars, then trying to punch me because I'm the biggest guy there.
Oh my god.
We've already had someone do that
yeah.
one.
How
happens-
often is that happening?
Okay.
No, yeah. What happened?
They just are like, oh, you make me feel like a bitch right now, and I'm like, that's inside of yourself. I'm just here, and I'm not strong, so you win. I'm a pussy. Please don't hit me. Is usually my response, but they still will be like, come on, man, I could kick your ass right now. Let's go box outside. Like,
This has happened more than once.
oh, dozens of times.
See-
it's happened twice this week.
Wow. This is interesting because I think it's because you're skinny.
Yeah,
Because
they know
I
they
don't
can beat
have
my
that
ass.
as a big person.
Yeah.
They don't try to fight me.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to I would not be good at fighting, but I've never been.
Do you really think you would really suck?
No, I think if I had to, I could. I mean, I played football.
That's what I think.
I could really. I could.
I'd love to see
I could, and I have an anger in me, but that is could snap at any moment and really
all
like.
it takes is one woman to go, oh, and you will tackle that
fuck out,
You just go tackle her.
or get the fuck out.
Oh man.
But it's interesting that you're constantly being
Yeah,
because you are
I'm,
so tall.
I'm your best like bang for your buck for like you looking like you beat up a big guy without actually having to put any effort into it because I am so
Yo,
easily
I beat up
toppled.
this 7-foot tall dude
Yeah.
with Marfan syndrome.
Yeah, he fell after one trip. That's
I raised my foot and something happened to his chest,
yeah,
and
he died on his own accord, but I was
Yeah.
there also. You know, if you want square footage hitting the ground, I'm your guy. All right, you
Yeah.
don't have to hit me very hard at all. I'll fall on
That's
purpose.
so
That's
interesting.
so
But yeah,
weird.
I've somehow managed to avoid actually getting hit by just being like, "Hey, I'm a little baby, little pussy. Please don't hit me.
Yeah.
You're so much cooler."
Do you
than
ever
me."
say? Do you ever go? I have.
Yeah,
disease.
I'm like, oh man, like please don't hit me, I will die. And so that's like a lot of what I'll say at a bar, and then they'll be like, oh no, come on, dude. I'm like, no, I have a heart condition. Please do not hit me, like I will die. And then they'll be like, ah.
That is really sad.
Yeah.
That's also. I'm going to start using that defense now. If someone tries to fight me, I have
Go
a heart
for it.
condition.
Sorry,
I'm going to
heart
die.
condition.
Sorry.
You just keep like flicking him. Sorry, heart condition can't hit me. Yeah, and then last one was this has got to stop. Lifetime caps on insurance. I'd love to have a surgery again after I turn 26, please.
Oh yeah.
So, is there anything different between what you can get and what I can get because you have Marfans?
So, policy-wise, I'm on my dad's insurance right now, and luckily, pre-existing conditions are covered to an extent. But like the plan that I would be able to get under what currently exists does not cover any of my specialty medical care. So I either go completely destitute and live, or I die and have
Yeah.
money. So
What are you hoping to happen? That you'll get a
just more. I mean, I guess for me personally, trying to get through like a union or something, like a producers union, guild, or like some sort of
or SAG.
organization.
I mean,
SAG, yeah.
I feel like like because you're tall.
Yeah.
That there's like a commercial
Yeah,
agent.
I mean,
like
I've had a couple people reach out about trying to do like commercial stuff with me, and I've done a lot of creature acting in the past, like in movies.
totally.
But yeah, no, so it'll be like something where I have to join up with a bigger organization in order to like have access to the negotiating power to get healthcare because I'm like a high risk case, so they don't want to cover me to the extent that I need to be covered to survive. You know, like my heart medicine isn't covered.
Sure.
So it's like, all right, well, it's like they're like you got to buy into this life, baby.
Well, that's definitely. Oh, this has got to stop. Let's go on to our final segment.
You better count your blessings.
You better count your blessing. Russell, do you have a blessing?
Go first.
Well, I can't share what the news is, but some very good news came in today, and I don't know. Sometimes I felt like I needed a piece of good news. I don't know if I'm always that way. Very possibly, but it's very exciting. We will announce it on the show, but it also does involve the show. It's just a cool thing, and so I have a lot of people who help out my career, but Rick Dorfman, my manager, and Matt Bourne, my touring agent. This was a really exciting win. I hope it's exciting.
I'm very excited.
I just know it's a lot.
But I'm excited by it.
So
and I can't
I'm
wait
just
to
very
talk about
thankful
it more.
To my reps, because people who represent stand-up comedians, they have to believe in the long haul, because even this news, it's not a lot of money in their pocket.
Yeah.
So I appreciate them very much, and I'm very excited to tell you guys about it.
Yeah. I don't know. My blessing is for this week. A cool thing happened yesterday. Doing the show, get to perform, and you never know who's going to be in the audience. And I was in the middle of the show, and I was like, that looks like Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones. And it was Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones watching Titanic, the musical, off-Broadway with his wife, seemingly having a great time. And it just was a cool thing when you're like, some of the people that have come through to see this show, and you're like,
it's crazy.
That's
The people
crazy to me to be like, Keith Richards watched me do this 30 or this whole show as this woman, and it's just crazy. It's a weird thing. It kind of blows your mind. So I felt like,
now, would you want like your other hero? Like if you found out like LCD Sound System was all coming to Titanic.
No, it's like perfect this level of stuff where it's like, I think the perfect level of person is someone that's really impressive to my parents.
Yeah.
Do you know, being like, Keith Richards was at our show tonight. That's a very cool thing to tell your parents. You know?
Or you want Ed Sullivan?
It's cool to think of Keith Richards coming to Titanic. I mean, he's old.
I looked it up. He's like 79.
When you said seemed to be enjoying himself, could you not tell by like the layers of plastic?
No, here's the
holding
thing
him
happened.
up?
Here's the thing what happened first is that I was like, wow, there's a really cool old man in the audience. You know, when you're like, see a cool looking old man. Then I'm like, he seems like he's having a good time. And then I looked a little closer and I was like, that guy looks just like Keith Richards. And then I got off stage and I was like, I remembered the woman looking next to him, and I'm like, I'm going to Google. And I looked at it and I was like, that's the woman next to him. I was like, it was him. And then they did a post on it afterwards. So I was like, oh, it really was him. So, but he looked like he was having fun. He had he just looked cool. He had like a thing in his headband on, and just kind of like, and So
who's a dream? Give me one. You want what's her name to come from White Lotus?
Yeah, Jennifer Coolidge would be cool.
Jennifer Coolidge. RuPaul already came. Angela Lloyd Webber already came.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard. I think older musicians is cool. Like that's like a
Elton John or somebody.
Yeah. Maybe someone from Fleetwood Mac. That would be impressive to me. And to
what if Will Ferrell came? You wouldn't be like,
oh no, that'd be
if
very
you saw
cool.
Will Ferrell just like laughing his ass
we
off.
had an SNL. We had Taron Killam came from SNL. But yeah, any kind of like that person too. Obviously, would be very cool.
Chris Kattan.
Very nerve wracking. Yeah.
Chris Kattan's in the standby line. Do you have a blessing?
I have a blessing. I mentioned it earlier, but I think I'm very thankful for the community that I'm able to establish by having the circumstances that I do. Almost so much so that it makes me thankful for everything about my life some days. And shout out to everyone with Marfan syndrome out there, all my fellow Marfs.
Oh, is that the name?
Marfs. It's
Marfs.
don't say it. All right, it's our
Oh
word.
no, Russell.
Russell's canceled. All right, guys. You're Native American. You got certain words you can say. That is not one of them. All right.
I'm so sorry. I'd like to apologize to the whole
to the-
Marfan community.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is coming out on April 4th. Do you have anything you'd like to plug, Liam?
I like the switch over. I'm gonna be April 4th. Gonna be doing a show at the Broadway Comedy Club on April 8th. That's
Fuck
gonna be
yeah.
exciting. Actually, Westside Comedy Club April 8th at 6 o'clock, and then Broadway Comedy Club April 15th at 6 o'clock as well.
Hell yeah! Listen, you're listening. Liam, you're still new to New York.
Yeah, I have to bring people, so please come.
Please go to that show. But check him out, and I forget exact what dates I'll post them. But Liam's going to be opening for me on the road too.
Yeah, come to
this
those.
week though, your friend's opening for me. Ty
Ty.
Ty
Shout
is
out Ty
opening for me.
Colgate.
I'll be in Alabama, April 6th at the Stardome. Don't know how that's going to sell. Don't know how that's going to sell. You really don't know. I truly have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm saying jokingly, but I don't know if people in Birmingham know me, but I doubt it. April 7th and 8th at the Helium Comedy Club in St. Louis. I'm returning there. We got 4 shows. Let's sell them out. Maybe they're sold out already. And then the weekend after that, I will be at Portland. April 11th, I'm doing a one-nighter in Portland. It's a Tuesday, so please come on out. Tell your friends in Portland. And then San Diego, April 12th, doing a fundraiser for Make-A-Wish. Got to think of some joke for that. And then April 13th through 15th at Dr. Grin's in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm on the road. Check it out. Russell, what do you want to plug?
Okay, 2 things. Well, one thing I forgot in my blessing, I should have also mentioned we had a Debbie Downsider come to Titanic.
Yeah!
And that was very cool. She sent me a nice message, and it was just cool. So please, if you're a Debbie Downsider and you're living in New York or you're visiting New York, come see Titanic. And specifically, if it's April 4th, Tuesday, April 4th, come see it this night because my manager agent are coming that night, and I want it to be a good crowd for that performance specifically. So Tuesday, come out tonight to Titanic the musical. Get some rush tickets. You can usually pick up some the day of the show.
What if when you say cunt, your new agent goes,
oh, brother, dropping
And then you
him,
go, "Ugh."
dropping him.
Very exciting. And again, patreon.com/downside. We are so close to this merch being ready. It's pretty much ready.
Yeah.
I just got to buy one for myself, test it out. But I think one of the things, if you join the highest level of the Patreon for
Test it out.
$25, just put it on. Make
What
sure
are we
it's like,
doing here?
just make sure it looks good.
You sound like you're making a fleshlight.
Test it off as a cum towel. You know me, I'm a cum towel kind of guy. And just remember, if you're out there, if you're in a loving relationship, might seem nice now, but one day you're going to come home and you're going to find your girlfriend in a bed with your best friend. And I was doing this has got to stop.
I was waiting for you to pick up on it.
God damn it.
Like,
this
what
is
the fuck is this?
Downside.
1, 2, 3.
I thought it was so smart. You gave me a look.
I was like, what is this?
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.